Mr. Vice President, the messaging on the coronavirus from the White House has been all over the place since February. It's been extremely inconsistent. It's caused so many people in this country to ignore the virus and not take the necessary precautions. How will you get the proper messaging out to all Americans to keep them informed as to how to properly protect themselves and others from this pandemic?
What presidents say matter. People listen. I will make it clear what is needed to be done. I cannot mandate people wearing masks, but we've just been told we should expect another 215,000 dead by January. But if we wore a mask, we'd save 100,000 of those lives, doing nothing but that. We have to make sure we lay out to the American people the truth, tell them the truth. And I would make sure that I would call every governor in the country into the White House, say, you should be putting mandates out. If they don't, I'd call the mayors in their towns and their cities and say, put out mandates. You can save lives. And we should be providing for the PPE, the protective gear that is needed. Look, you know what recently happened? The President of the United States said that no longer would we, in fact, provide masks for schools. For schools, pay them to have the mask in school because it was not a national emergency. What is he talking about? It's totally irrational. And look, this is all about one thing, the stock market. He doesn't want to see anything happen. It's all about his reelection. It should be about the American people, and they're in trouble. And if we don't do it, and by the way, his own CDC director contradicted him recently. He said, if in fact you just wore this mask, nothing else but this mask, you would save between now and January another 100,000 lives. And so we have to be honest with the American people. They're tough. They know, as Franklin Roosevelt said, things get worse and worse before they get better and better, but you got to level with the American people, shoot from the shoulder. There's never been a time they've not been able to step up. This president should step down.
Mr. Vice President, you've called the president's rallies irresponsible, yet you praised peaceful protesting this summer. What is the difference when it comes to COVID safety?
I think COVID safety is a problem no matter where people are wearing masks, if they don't have masks on. The context of praising people who protest peacefully is there was about question of right to speak, not to loot, not to burn, not to do anything that causes damage. The right to speak out makes sense, but we should be careful across the board. But there is a big difference between people walking, moving along, and people sitting down, cheek to jowl, shoulder to shoulder, 1,000 of them, breathing on one another, indoors and out, that causes real serious problems.
You've said about a month ago that for the next 3 months, all Americans you'd like to see all Americans wearing masks.
Yes.
And that you would push governors to institute mandates for mask wearing. Back in the pandemic in 1918, in some states, in some towns, they had actually outdoor courts to find people who weren't wearing masks. Is that something you would like to see happen in states?
I would like to see the governors enforce mask wearing, period. I can do that on federal property. As president, I will do that. On federal land, I'd have the authority. If you're on federal land, you must wear a mask. In a federal building, you must wear a mask. And we could have a fine for them not doing it. Look, this is about saving people's lives. There's no question that it saves people's lives.
To those who say it's individual liberty not to wear a mask.
Well, let me tell you something. You know, what Bill Barr recently said is outrageous. That is like slavery. We're taking away freedom. I would tell you what takes away your freedom. What takes away your freedom is not being able to see your kid, not being able to go to the football game or baseball game, not being able to see your mom or dad sick in the hospital, not being able to do the things. That's what costs our freedom, and it's been the failure of this president to deal with this virus, and he knew about it. He knew the details.
Not wrong there.
He knew it in clear terms. Imagine had he at the State of the Union stood up and said, when back in January I wrote an article for USA Today saying, we've got a pandemic, we've got a real problem. Imagine if he had said something. How many more people would be alive?
This is Joe Vidalia. He's a high school teacher from Archbald. He's a Democrat. Joe, thanks for being here.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you, Anderson. Hi, Vice President. Welcome home.
I am a high school teacher who has multiple sclerosis. I am on a drug that has compromised my immune system. My question for you is, when the students come back in person to school, will you and your administration mandate the vaccine to be taken like the MMR to enter the school when it becomes safe and available to the public? Because I love teaching, but I don't want to die and have my wife lose another.
Get the fuck out of here. Are you serious right now? What the fuck? Alright, give me 1 second. Let's see, let's see. Of course. Wow. 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 Wait, I have Hulu. What am I doing? Oh, I need live TV. Are you serious right now, fucking CNN? Are you fucking kidding me? How come I don't understand how all these fucking people want all these liberal voters, they want to reach out to people. They're like, "All right, yeah, you're going to have to pay all this money in order to fucking see this motherfucker talk live." Are you fucking kidding me right now? Wouldn't be that bad if it would just activate the fucking dish link. Well, this turns out to be fucking shitty. Oh, this is fucking annoying. It's not even giving me an option to fucking... You guys are so fucking stupid. Like, beyond the... Ugh, Jesus Christ. Fucking liberal ass fucking media is so fucking annoying. Well, I guess we won't be watching the Joe Biden's town hall after all. Ha 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 ha. Fucking awesome. That is so disappointing. Why the fuck it's not just booting me to the fucking thing to log in? That's absolutely asinine. Absolutely asinine. guys are assholes. Assholes. Just for this, I hope Trump wins. These guys can go suck a dick now. Fuck off. Get the fuck out of here. No, get the fuck out of here. We're not doing that shit. This is fucking insane. What's up?
So I can't find Odie's white noise machine. You know the little white thing?
Yeah.
And I was like, Odie, where is your white noise thing? And he goes, I don't know.
Guess I'll watch on Sling TV. Free trial. Ha ha ha. $30 a month. 3 days free. This is fucking insane. M! I fucking swear to God, I'm gonna fucking watch this thing tonight. I swear to God. Do you know the dish login stuff?
Yeah,
Can you text it to me?
I can just type
No,
it.
What?
Do you want me to just type it on something so you have it? 'Cause I'm busy doing stuff. I don't have my phone on me.
This is insane. They let me watch like 15, like not even 10 minutes of it and then cut it off immediately. Play. Dish. Log in.
There it is.
Okay. Please wait while we load in the login page. What? It's fucking 2020 and
I meant to say something when I walked in here for the second time.
okie dokie. Boom, I think we just got it.
God.
Yeah,
All
we
Trump can
did.
see from Park Avenue is Wall Street. All he thinks about is the stock market and telling we're going to do all right. Everybody owns stock. How many of you all own stock in Scranton? Now, my neighborhood in Scranton, not a whole lot of people own
Scranton.
stock. And so we have to make sure that healthcare workers are paid and paid a decent wage. And $15 an hour isn't enough for a healthcare worker. And so, again, I won't take the time now, but Joe, if I can get your address,
Definitely.
let me get to you. Go to joebiden.com, and you'll see what I talk about needing to be done with regard to healthcare workers. And by the way, mental health.
I heard something.
You know as well as I do, and the nurse who was just up here knows. We're in desperate need. There are more people who are at risk and worried today than any time in modern times, and especially the youngest generation. People between the ages of 7 and 17, they are more at risk in terms of mental insecurity than any generation. And that's why we have to make sure we have more social workers and psychologists in our schools. Look, we learned drug abuse doesn't cause mental illness. Mental stress and mental illness cause drug abuse. We've learned so much that we can change.
That was
so
a good
much.
save.
And
Jesus
that's why
Christ,
we
he was
have to
stumbling
make
there for
sure
a second.
that
Fuck.
the super wealthy start
I don't
paying
blame
their
him.
fair share. so we can do the
Oh,
things
can I
we
use the
have to
bathroom real
do
quick?
to make life better for hardworking middle-class folks.
You referenced something that the Attorney General just said yesterday, or just said last night. You haven't ruled out shutting down the country in the future if the pandemic worsens and science leads you to that. The Attorney General said last night that lockdowns were the greatest intrusion on civil liberties in the U.S. in U.S. history, other than slavery.
Well, look, two things. One, they've taken out of context, as the press has acknowledged, about the lockdown. I was asked if, in fact, there was a national emergency, and everyone, all the experts said, lock it down. We're not talking about locking down the whole country. What we need, Anderson, we need a criteria from state to state, within states, as to what constitutes the risk in each of the regions. You could very well have to have stay-at-home orders relative to a city or a community, and another community, a rural community, not have that at all, because the rate of infection is much lower, number one. Number two, think of what he has said. Look, wearing this mask is about making sure, and when you wear it, making sure no one else gets sick. It's not to protect you so much, it's to make sure you don't infect someone else. I call that a patriotic requirement. I call that what we should be doing right now. And if the president had done his job from the beginning, all the people would still be alive. All the people, I'm not making this up, just look at the data. Look at the data. And then we're now being told there's going to be I pray to God there's a vaccine tomorrow.
I thought he was gonna, I pray to God there's a virus.
Once a vaccine
like,
is
shit,
made
what did I
available,
walk into?
And you know this well. Once it's made available, it's going to take a long, long time to be able to distribute it throughout the country. You're not going to have 325 million vials to begin with. And the way in which it's transported, there's two kinds of vaccines that they're talking about. One is anyway, one relates to changing your cell structure, and the other relates to engaging your
I thought he was like, anyway, I'm done with this.
They require different ways
Change the
they can be
subject.
transported. One's required to be transported at 70 degrees below zero. And taking 2 shots. So the idea that there's going to be a vaccine and everything's going to be fine tomorrow is just not rational, not reasonable.
Do you think the comments by the Attorney General contribute to people, encourage people not to wear masks?
Sure. Quite frankly, they're sick. Think about it. Did you ever think, any of you'd hear Attorney General say that following the recommendations of the scientific community to save your and other people's lives is equivalent to slavery, people being put in chains? You lost your freedom because he didn't act. The freedom to go to that ball game, the freedom of your kid to go to school, the freedom to see your mom or dad in the hospital, the freedom just to walk around your neighborhood because of failure to act responsibly. Anderson, I've been doing this a long time. I never, ever thought I would see such a thoroughly, totally irresponsible administration. It's one of the reasons why, if you take a look, the Pew Foundation poll, guess what? Russia, Putin, China, Xi Jinping are trusted by more of the people in the world than the President of the United States of America. And one of the reasons they cite is COVID, the way he's handled COVID. This is not only causing us life lost here, it's causing us
He's
to
not
lose
wrong.
our influence
Making
in
a lot of
ways
other
that
rich
are
people
profound.
fucking
I
mad.
want you to meet Kristen Szymanski. She works for a family-owned chocolate manufacturing company in Dunmore. She's a Democrat. Kristen, welcome.
Good evening. My mother was diagnosed with multiple myeloma 2 years ago at the age of 66. The cost of her care has been astronomical. However, my family has been fortunate that both she and my father had long careers at good companies that afforded them the opportunity to save for retirement, which is helping to pay for her care. Mr. Vice President, what is your plan to make healthcare affordable so Americans don't need to drain their savings when care is necessary?
First of all, in the middle of this pandemic, what's the president doing? He's in federal court, trying to do away with the Affordable Care Act, 100 million people with pre-existing conditions like your mom would not have to pay more for their insurance under now. But guess what happens if in fact, he wins? That's number one. Number two, what I would do is make sure that we reinstate the Affordable Care Act, number one, and add a public option to that Affordable Care Act so that nobody in the United States of America would go without being able to be covered for what they need. With regard to COVID, for example, I don't want to get too my son died of cancer. He came home from Iraq, and I have to tell you, it really, really offended me when he volunteered to go there for a year, and he came home because of stage 4 glioblastoma. And the president referred to guys like my son. He won the Bronze Star, the Conspicuous Service Medal, referred to them as losers. Losers. Talk about losers. My point is this. The idea
That was a little cringy.
that health care is debated as whether or not it's a right or a privilege. It's
I feel like he
absolute
stood in the
right.
mirror
And so we have to make sure,
practiced that a few times before
particularly
he got
in
up
the
there.
moment of COVID, that any cost relating
I
to
can imagine
COVID
it also being pretty
are,
hard
in
at the
fact,
same
free.
time, but
The federal government guarantees be taken care of. One of the
I don't even
reasons
know
why
why
people
he
aren't
even-
going in and getting tested is they're afraid of the bill they're going to receive. They're afraid of what's going to happen.
okay, now he's getting to
And
it.
with
I
your
was like,
mom,
she wasn't even
it's a
asking
different,
about that.
multiple myeloma is a difficult disease to care for. And that's why one of the things I've done, well, anyway, I'm going on too much about cancer. I apologize. But one of the things that I strongly believe is we have to be in a position where we provide for all the research and all the effort to deal with cancer. And look, we can beat this disease, but we have to invest significant amounts of money, billions of dollars to do it. And it can be done. It can be done.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more questions from our audience for former Vice President Joe Biden. Thanks.
All right. Commercial break in progress. All right, let's see what the fucking Congress was doing today. Let's see, on the Senate floor today, bill to designate the Clinic of Department of Veterans Affairs in Bend, Oregon as the Robert D. Maxwell Department of Veterans Affairs Clinic. Cool for Robert D. Maxwell. We're just renaming buildings, supporting family mental health in. Okay. A summary's in progress. Okay, thanks guys, you fucking assholes. Nominations, Roderick C. Young. I remember, that's right, I did bring up some stuff about him earlier. Because I saw that he had gone to Western Virginia University with somebody else. Who was it? I don't think it was on this list. No, it wouldn't be. Keith. Okay. Fuck, I thought it was one of these guys. Saw it earlier. Let's see. While we're waiting for old Biden to get back, we'll wait for old. See what Trump had to say 4 hours ago at the White House History Conference.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Great Vice President. I'm truly honored to be here at the very
Yeah, it
first
looked like it
White
was.
House Conference on American History. So important. Our mission is to defend the legacy of America's founding, the virtue of America's heroes, and the nobility of the American character. We must clear away the twisted web of lies in our schools and classrooms and teach our children the magnificent truth about our country. We want our sons and daughters to know that they are the citizens of the most exceptional nation in the history of the world. To grow up in America is to live in a land where anything is possible, where anyone can rise, and where any dream can come true, all because of the immortal principles of our nation's founders, inscribed nearly 2.5 centuries ago. That's why we've come to the National Archives, the sacred home of our national memory. In this great chamber, we preserve our glorious inheritance, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. On this very day in 1787, our founding fathers signed the Constitution.
All right. Sorry, Trump. We'll be back.
And welcome back. We're live from a very unique CNN drive-in town hall event tonight. We're at the home of Scranton Wilkes-Barre rail riders at PNC Field with local voters with questions for presidential candidate Joe Biden. I just want to start with a question of my own. The first debate is 12 days away. President Trump was asked this week about how he's preparing
12
for it.
days,
He said,
okay.
quote, I sort of
what's
prepare every
this?
day by just doing what I'm doing. How are you preparing for the debate?
About the same way, although I have gone back and talked about and looked at not only the things he said, but making sure I can concisely say what I'm for and what I'm going to do.
Do you have somebody playing President Trump? And if so,
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I mean, there are actually a couple people, they asked me questions if they were as if they were Trump. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking forward to it.
our next questioner is Leah Connolly, a Democrat from Philadelphia. She's a program coordinator and museum educator. Leah?
Philly girl. I married a Philly girl.
Woo, Philly girls are the best. Good evening, Anderson and Vice President Biden. The dependability of our mail-in ballots, a necessity for this year and potentially upcoming elections, is in question for the upcoming November 3rd election. If elected, what steps would you take to ensure voters in future elections do not face the same uncertainty that their vote will be counted in time for election results?
Number one, I would not try to throw into question the legitimacy of the election like this president and the people around him have done. Number one. Number two, I would make sure that the post office and I would move very quickly to try to get states to agree that they would open ballots before the actual deadline that night, so that because people have to mail in, those who mail in. Number three, what I'm doing now and I continue to do is try very hard to get as many poll workers available who are qualified to be able to, particularly because we'll still probably have some, we won't, hopefully in 2 more years, but to make sure that we have early voting, we have same-day registration, and we're in a position where we make sure that you're automatically registered once you become 18 years of age. They're the things that I would push to do because, look, it's all about people showing up and voting. And I'm confident, notwithstanding all the effort the president has made, I think you're going to see a massive turnout. And if you wonder, go to iwillvote.com.
Uncertainty about mail-in ballots being counted. At the same time, stop fucking telling people to vote
Well, let me ask
twice.
you about that. The
Trump.
president just this morning tweeted that the results from the November election, quote, may never be accurately determined. Given everything that we've been hearing from the president, I'm wondering what you expect the
God,
days
he's
and
such a
weeks
fucking creepy
after
smile.
the election to look like.
Look, if the president had even remote confidence he was likely to win the election, he wouldn't be doing this. Remember, I wasn't on your show, but I said some months ago, I predict the president's going to try to move the election date. And everybody said, oh, he'd never do that. Guess what? He suggested maybe we should move the election date, postpone the election. And so he's done every single thing, including having a postmaster general who still doesn't
didn't all
know
he
who
do is tweet
dismantled
about
those
it?
machines. Who
Did
ordered
he even
bids
actually make an
to
effort to...
picking up those places to mail your ballots? I mean, it's just is all about trying to delegitimize the effort.
Do you think that I mean, President Trump has said that he's not yet said that he'd be willing to accept the results of the November election Would you commit tonight to accepting the results of the election?
Sure, the full results. Count every vote. Look, I mean, can you ever think, can anybody, any of you who are history majors out there, think of any president who said early on, I'm not sure I'm going to accept the results of the election? It depends. I mean, what's happened to us in this? This is not who we are. This is not what America is. No president's ever said anything like that.
I want to introduce you to Mavis Ball, a Democrat from Philadelphia who recently relocated from Texas. She served as PTA president and as a member of the school board for her son's school. Mavis?
Hello, Vice President Biden.
All right, Mayor.
Black parents across America need to know, how much different will the talk be with our sons and daughters about police interaction under your administration?
It'll be fundamentally different, but let me make it clear. One of the things people say, I know I understand, as my mother would say, come walk in my shoes for a mile and tell me you understand then. Very few white parents have to turn and say to their kid, once they get their license, make sure if you're pulled over, put both hands on top of the wheel. Don't reach for the glove box. Make sure you do whatever the police officer says. The vast majority of police are decent, honorable people. One of the things I've found is the only people who don't like bad cops more than we don't like them are police officers. And so what we have to do is we have to have a much more transparent means by which we provide for accountability within police departments. As President of the United States, what I will do, I will nationally bring together police chiefs, police officers, the union people, the African-American leadership, the communities, the brown communities, the civil rights leaderships, to sit at a table and agree on basic fundamental things that have to be done, including much more rigorous background checks on those who apply for and become police officers. 2, teaching people how to de-escalate. 3, providing for a 911 calls like what happened in Lancaster, making sure that you have psychologists and psychiatrists available to go out to deal with those circumstances. We can change. We started that process before. I'm confident it can work again and again without vilifying. There's bad cops. There's bad police officers. There's bad senators. There's bad congressmen. There's bad docs. There's people who aren't meeting standards in every single solitary profession. And I'm confident the vast majority of the police are prepared to sit down in the White House in a commission like Barack and I started to begin to sit down and lay out what the minimum basic requirements are and what is out of bounds, period, including the ability for us to be able to go in and look at a pattern and practice of police departments so they're completely transparent.
Mr. Vice President, Bob Woodward asked President Trump about white privilege and whether or not he benefited from it. And the president said, no, I don't feel that way at all, and sort of mocked Bob Woodward.
No.
Do you see ways that you've benefited from white privilege?
Sure, I've benefited just because I don't have to go through what my black brothers and sisters have had to go through, number one. But number two, grow up here in
Number
Scranton.
2, I can afford
Tim's. Look down
Tim's.
their nose at us. We look to people who look at us and think that we're suckers. Look at us and they think that
I gotta get a
we
hat on.
don't-
This hair's tickling
we're
my
not
forehead.
equivalent to them. If you didn't have a college degree, you must be stupid. If, in fact, you didn't get to go to an Ivy school. Well, I tell you what bothered me, to tell you the truth. Maybe it's my Scranton roots. I don't know.
Scranton
But when you guys started talking on television about Biden, if he wins, will be the first person without a Ivy League degree to be elected president, I'm thinking, who the hell makes you think I have to have an Ivy League degree to be president? I really mean it. I found my backup. No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Like, guys like me were the first in my family
Guys
to
like
go to
me?
college. Up here, my dad busted his neck. My dad came up here, worked here, lost his job like a lot of people did here. There used to be a bad joke in the 60s in Scranton. No one's in Scranton, everybody's from Scranton because so many people lost their jobs. We are as good as anybody else. And guys like Trump, who inherited everything and squandered what they inherited, are the people that I've always had a problem with, not the people who are busting their neck.
Let me ask you, President Trump signed the First Step Act, which advocates for criminal justice reform, think is a good start in reforming the criminal justice system. Why should voters believe that you are the right person to build on that legislation, given that in the administration you had with President Obama, you guys weren't able to get a First Step Act.
Well, guess what? We proposed the First Step Act, and what we did was, in our administration, there are 38,000 fewer
I think
federal
that goes
prisoners
either
than
way
there
for
were
both of
when
them,
we
brother.
started our administration. We moved to eliminate the disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine. So a black guy getting a nickel bag and
His
snorting
forehead,
coke
every time he
went
raises his
mandatory to
eyebrows,
jail.
looks like
Someone who was
Boogie
did a
from
line
The Nightmare Before Christmas.
in Park
Oogie
Avenue,
Boogie.
got arrested. They got probation.
It's
And
disgusting.
so we've tried to change. There have been mistakes made. We've made significant changes, and we'll make more. But look at what he's done. Look at where we are. He has refused to do the kinds of things that need to be done to fundamentally change the criminal justice system, including making sure that there's equal application of justice.
This is Bill Barrett. He's a retired police chief of Wilkes-Barre and a member of the Wilkes-Barre City Council. He's a Democrat. Bill, thanks for being with us.
Chief, didn't I meet you when you were chief?
We did, sir.
That's
It's a
what I
pleasure.
thought.
Good to
Looking
see
at you like I know.
Good evening, Vice President
evening.
Biden, Anderson. As mentioned, as retired police chief, I am very concerned about the violence taking place in our cities across this country, and especially concerned about the lack of respect shown towards law enforcement officers and military. Can you tell us what your plan is for addressing this situation and bringing our nation back together, sir?
First of all, protesting is one thing. A right to speak is one thing. Violence of any kind, no matter who it is coming from,
That's
is wrong,
yeah.
and people should be held accountable. Burning down automobile lots,
Yeah, what the fuck were you
smashing
doing?
windows, setting buildings on fire. But here's the
He's
deal.
saying all this shit now,
I've
but wasn't
condemned
doing fuck
every
all
form of
years
violence,
ago.
No matter what the source is. No matter what the source is. The president has yet to condemn, as you've probably noticed, the far right and the white supremacists and those guys walking around with the AK-47s and not doing
With the
a damn thing about it.
AK-47s? I think
This
I've
is
seen like 3 videos of
absolutely- Look, his own
like
his
some guys
own
with
former,
AK-47s.
press secretary Kellyanne
Not-
Conway said, I'm paraphrasing.
I feel like he
Chaos and violence
is
are
resorting
good
every
for our
firearm
administration.
as an
They're
AK-47.
good for us. The president talks about in Joe Biden's America. I got to remind him, he may be really losing it. He's president. I'm not the president. This is Donald Trump's
But you
America.
were the vice
You feel
president,
safer
buddy.
in Donald Trump's America when he incites these kinds of things? The idea is it's
He can
wrong
no
matter
incite it all he
what
wants.
the
You
source
sit there and
is,
let it
where
happen
comes
too,
from.
brother.
I condemn it all, and people should be held accountable. But folks, I'm waiting for the day when he says, I condemn all those white supremacists. I condemn those militia guys as much as I do every other organization.
The 30 caliber
And
clip.
by the way, Chief, when you put that badge on and you walk out the door, you
All
have a
those
right to come
revolvers
home to
in
your
their
family
magazines.
safely. Period.
Their extended
Period.
magazines on the 44 Magnums.
A lot of protesters have called for defunding police. This summer, murder rates in some big cities have shot up. Chicago murders are up 52% so far. New York up 23%. Los Angeles up 15%. There are a lot of people who worry about a breakdown of law and order in this country. Are you one of them?
I'm worried that as long as the administration continues to preach hate and division, talking about people in ways they talk about them, that I am worried. But here's the deal. We're in a situation in the United States where, by the way, in our administration, violent crime went down 15%. We didn't have to worry about protecting public buildings. We were able to do it without sending in our military. Do you ever think you'd see a day? You can't answer me, I know. But ever think you'd see a day when 6 4-star generals walked away from this president? Several of them said they were ashamed of how he conducted himself. A president who stands out there when people are peacefully protesting in front of the White House.
Kind of makes a point
no
there.
violence whatsoever. He gets the military to go in, put tear gas, move people, physically move them out of the way so he can walk across to a Protestant church and hold a Bible upside down. I wonder if he ever opened it. Upside down, and then go back to a bunker
Biden, I don't
in
think
the White
you've ever
House?
opened a Bible,
What are we
buddy.
talking about here? It's simply wrong to engage the military in dealing with domestic unrest as it relates to violence as a consequence of people protesting.
13
can take
fucking
care of this.
viewers.
It can be
Some of y'all
taken
better
care of.
follow
We
me.
took
I went
care
through
of it in
like
our
10 minutes
administration.
of so much
There's
stress
no
of
need
getting
to
this fucking
escalate
footage to
this.
get
And think
back
of what
up.
the rest of the world's looking.
I had to contact my
I don't
mother-in-law
read
for a
the
fucking
international press, but I
cable
get it delivered
login.
to me all the time through my advisors and the old security people. They're looking at us like, what in God's name is going on in the United States of America?
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more from former Vice President Joe Biden.
What the hell is going on in America? Let's... Alright. I still want to see what old Trump had to say a little while ago.
Western civilization. Our Constitution was the product of centuries of tradition, wisdom, and experience. No political document has done more to advance the human condition or propel the engine of progress. Yet as we gather this afternoon, a radical movement is attempting to demolish this treasured and precious inheritance. We can't let that happen.
We can't let that happen.
Left-wing mobs have torn down statues
Where's my
of our
captions?
founders, desecrated our memorials, and carried out a campaign of violence and anarchy. Far-left demonstrators have chanted the words, "America was never great." The left has launched a vicious and violent assault on law enforcement, the universal symbol of the rule of law.
I mean, it kinda hasn't been great with Obama, you, Bush, Clinton,
media, and even large corporations. Whether it is the mob on the street or the cancel culture in the boardroom, the goal is the same: to silence dissent, to scare you out of speaking the truth, and to bully Americans into abandoning their values, their heritage, and their very way of life. We are here today to declare that we will never submit to tyranny. We will reclaim our history.
we will never submit to tyranny, but I'll do a little bit of tyranny.
Religion and creed. The radicals burning American flags want to burn down the principles enshrined in our founding documents, including the bedrock principle of equal justice under law. In order to radically transform America, they must first cause Americans to lose confidence in who we are, where we came
This
from.
guy has caused more division in our country the past 4 years than Obama ever did, bro.
Mount Rushmore.
Talk about how it has not
which
been
they
great.
would love to rip down and rip it down fast. That's never going to happen. 2 months ago, the left-wing cultural revolution is designed to overthrow the American Revolution. As many of you testified today, the left-wing rioting and mayhem are the direct result of decades of left-wing indoctrination in our schools. It's gone on far too long. Our children are instructed from propaganda tracks like those of Howard Zinn that try to make students ashamed of their own history. The left has warped, distorted, and defiled the American story with deceptions, falsehoods, and lies. There is no better.
Yeah, the left. This, the left for that.
And welcome back to our
Let's
drive-in
see
town hall with former
Biden
Vice
say the
President,
right
Joe
this, the
Biden.
right that.
Our next question is from Tom Kalpin. He works as a business agent from the Iron Workers Union. He's a Democrat from Moosic. Tom, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, Mr. Cooper. With the abundance of natural gas in northeast Pennsylvania, do you support the continuation of fracking, safely and with proper guidelines, of course, and growing the industry to aid additional jobs to our region?
Yes, I do. I do. In addition to that, we can provide for right now, as you know, there are thousands of uncapped wells because a lot of companies gone out of business, whether they're gas or oil facilities. We can
Man, he's been causing more division before the pandemic even started.
250,000 people from the iron workers and other disciplines making union wages, capping those wells that are leaking methane and are a danger to the community. And so not only do I continue to support it, jobs, it's important for this community. It's important for Pennsylvania and Ohio and other states. It's an important business, and it's a lot of wages are involved in that. But beyond that, we can also get people working now, capping the wells that are left uncapped right now across this region and all the way. There's hundreds of thousands of them all across.
What do you
the
mean
nation.
how? He complains about the left constantly destroying shit while calling all protesters rioters, while not ever commenting on any white supremacists doing anything. Oh, they're very good people. He had nothing to say about people coming to my town in Charlottesville, fucking with pitchforks and torches and everything else, coming to whoop ass. God forbid. He complains about Antifa so fucking much, but oh my god, every single time Antifa's always some little crazy white boy. Fucking every footage they have of Antifa doing something, it's some crazy little white boy.
Now, fracking, number one. Number two,
and it's, oh my god, man, come on, how you gonna ask me how? Like, don't hop on here thinking I give a fuck about Biden either. Like, I don't like Obama, I don't like Biden, I don't like Clinton, I don't like any of these motherfuckers. They're all, oh my god, the two-party system's so ridiculous.
What I'm going to make sure we do is we can transition in a way. For example, we're going to build 500. The reason why all these unions have endorsed me is that they know my position, that I'm going to make sure that we have 500,000 charging stations on our highways so we can own the electric car market.
The electric car market that's not being financed properly at all because it's causing more damage than...
Making sure we moved electric vehicles. As President of the United States, I'll have one of the largest fleets. We spend $600 billion a year, federal money, for federal contracts. I'm going to make sure those contracts are all products made in America, including the chain that provides for every one of those products. I'm going to do away with the tax break that the president gave people who send jobs abroad, to make sure that if you in fact have a contract, with taxpayers, my money, you must use American products, you must buy American products, and you must not be in a position where you're exporting. We have over 50% more people moving jobs overseas as a consequence of these contracts. So it's all backwards. And this is going to provide a lot of good paying jobs for people in the trades.
Let me introduce you to Hannah Cannon, a Democrat from Allentown, where she runs a bike mentoring program for a local nonprofit. Hannah, welcome.
Hello, good evening. So as you know, the entire West is on fire. Glaciers are melting and air quality is poor in many areas. The climate crisis cannot be ignored. I participated in many climate actions in recent years, and I am about to become a mother for the first time. As you know, Black, Hispanic, and communities in poverty are more vulnerable to the climate crisis. Are you a firm supporter of the Green New Deal, and how you will make sure our communities are protected?
I have laid out in detail what I'll do, and I'm going to see to it that I said we get to a net zero power grid by 2035, so no president can turn around and change what we're doing. We're going to get to net zero emissions by the year 2050 before. In the meantime, there's so much we can do and still make it better for people. We're going to invest in close to $1 trillion over time, in the near time, for infrastructure. We're going to build green infrastructure. For example, I propose that we spend $100 billion on making sure our schools have the right ventilation, making sure schools, in fact, are safe, making sure schools are in a position where they are not generating the use of more energy.
I want to hear how they're gonna do that though. Like, you guys still got my fucking kids going to school and people are still getting sick. We just had a fucking teacher die. Meanwhile, my kids are autistic and they can't even wear masks. Like, And they're
No, I
like,
was
yeah,
just
they
going
still
over
gotta
now.
go
I
though,
have my own
or
deal.
else
I
you
laid
guys
it out
can't
in
fucking
great detail,
get proper
which the
education for your
Democratic Party's
kids.
adopted as a platform.
Jesus.
It requires for us to move in a direction to fundamentally change the way in which we deal with the environment. I'm the guy that ran the Recovery Act, which invested over $90 billion in bringing down the cost of renewable energy so it's now more competitive than it is for coal or for oil or for gas. And so there's no reason why we can't transition in an orderly way, and by the way, before I actually went through the whole thing, I sat down with every one of the major unions. They all endorsed me. And I said, look, this is what it's going to mean for you. It's not only good for the environment, it's going to provide jobs, and you're not going to lose your jobs. You're not going to lose your jobs. Not producing the same energy, producing different kind of energy.
We're going to take another quick break. We'll be back.
Another quick break? Are you fucking kidding me?
Presidential candidate Joe Biden next.
Oh my God. All right. Far left.
Than the New York Times totally discredited 1619 project. This project rewrites American history to teach our children that we were founded on the principle of oppression, not freedom. Nothing could be further from the truth.
What?
Set in motion the unstoppable chain of events that abolished slavery, secured civil rights, defeated communism and fascism.
Secured civil rights.
Fair, equal, and prosperous nation in human history.
As if that means everybody still has civil rights.
The narratives about America being pushed by the far left and being chanted in the streets bear a striking resemblance to the anti-American propaganda of our adversaries, because both groups want to see America weakened, derided, and totally diminished. Students in our universities are inundated with critical race theory. This is a Marxist doctrine, holding that America is a wicked and racist nation, that even young children are complicit in oppression, and that our entire society must be radically transformed.
Not radically transformed, but like, there's quite a lot of you racist motherfuckers out there.
Workplace trainings, and it's being deployed to rip apart friends, neighbors, and families. A perfect example of critical race theory was recently
He's a little less orange than he normally is.
Smithsonian Institution. This document alleged that concepts such as hard work, rational thinking, and the nuclear family and belief in God were not values that unite all Americans, but were instead aspects of whiteness. This is offensive and outrageous to Americans of every ethnicity, and it's
every
especially
ethnicity
harmful to children of minority backgrounds who should be uplifted, not disparaged. Teaching this horrible doctrine to our children.
Those criminals should have, those people we call criminals should be uplifted.
For many years now, the radicals have mistaken Americans' silence for weakness, but they're wrong. There is no more powerful force than a parent's love for their children, and patriotic moms and dads are going to demand that their children are no longer fed hateful lies about this country. American parents are not going to accept indoctrination in our schools, cancel culture in our work, or the repression of traditional faith, culture, and values.
Oh,
and welcome back.
Now that he's taken 10 minutes to say 4 things.
Joe Biden. I want to bring in, this is Dr. Kina Smallwood-Butts, a Democrat from Lansdowne. She works as a mental health counselor. Welcome.
Hello, good evening, Vice President Biden. Good evening, Mr. Cooper. My question is a two-parter. How will you handle Russia's involvement with Trump? How will we know the many ways he has compromised the United States?
Well, I
You
made
will
it
never
clear
know.
that early on, that in attempting to interfere with our election is a violation of our sovereignty. And if it's done again, which it appears to be being done, there'll be a price to pay. There'll be a price to pay. And Putin knows the reason he doesn't want me as president. He knows me, and he knows I mean it. I don't mean war, but they'll pay a price. They'll pay a price for it, and it'll be an economic price. Number one. Number two, one of the things we have to do is make sure that,
You hear that,
we
Putin?
investigate
Biden's
exactly
coming
what
for your
involvement there
neck,
has been in
son.
our election, and to protect against it. One of the things we have to do as well is provide the states with the wherewithal to be able to upgrade their list, their machinery, and to make sure their encryption is deal with the notions that can make safe the voting rolls, and make it more difficult to have cyber intrusions into anything that's being done. That requires money. There's a plan that's been put together in the Senate by the Democrats, and I would push that plan. But it requires us to help states provide for the wherewithal to change the nature of the machinery. And I think we have to be able to be in a position where you have a paper ballot left after what happens with regard to the actual counting in the voting machine.
Let me ask, FBI Director Chris Wray said just today that Russia has been, in his words, very active in its efforts to influence the election and, quote, denigrate you. You said that that there would be an economic price to pay for Russia if they continue with this. Can you be more specific? What's the price to pay?
It wouldn't be prudent for me to be more specific, but I assure you they will pay a price.
Do you believe Russia is an enemy?
They will pay. I don't have an
I
answer,
believe Russia is an opponent.
this is my answer.
I really do. And look, Putin's overwhelming objective is to break up NATO, to fundamentally alter the circumstance in Europe so he doesn't have to face an entire NATO contingent. So any one country he is stronger than. And look what's happening now. Look what's happening in Belarus. Look what's happening in his response. Look what's happening, though, in countries like Romania. Look what's happening in terms of the authoritarian nature of some of the regimes changing.
Do you view China as an opponent? Because the president says you've been too cozy with China, too accepting of them in the international community.
I'm not the guy. Look, China, we now have a larger trade deficit with China than we've ever had with China. And in our administration, when the World Trade Organization
He's not the
keeps
guy.
going on about just ruled that his trade policy violated the World Trade Organization. We went to the World Trade Organization 16 times.
Do you view China as an opponent?
I view China as a competitor, a serious competitor. That's why I think we have to strengthen our relationships and our alliances in Asia. That's why we have to, in fact, make it clear. I made it clear, as you may recall, that when I was in China and she said to me that they're setting up an air identification zone, I said, I was with the national security team. I said, we're not going to pay attention. She said, what do you expect me to do? Bring it down? I said, we're just not going to pay attention. We're going to fly right through it. We're going to abide by international norms. That's what we're going to do and insist that they do.
This is Justin Gavall. He works in manufacturing. He's a Democrat. Justin, welcome.
Thanks, Anderson.
Another Democrat.
Hello, Vice President.
Hey, Justin.
I come from a small coal mine town in Mahanoy City, just down the line here.
City.
I know you do. I'm an Army veteran who served in Afghanistan 2013-14. I want to know, if you are elected, will you bring my brothers and sisters home, end our military involvement in these unnecessary, endless wars that don't have any end in sight?
Yes, I would. It's now public knowledge. I was opposed to the significant increase in our presence at the time in Afghanistan. And because I thought the only presence we should have is a counter-terrorism presence, not a counterinsurgency presence. The idea that we're ever going to break up the Haqqani network in eastern Pakistan, western Pakistan, is just not going to happen. But we have to be in a position where we can make it clear that if need be, we could respond to terrorist activities coming out of that region directed toward the United States. it does not require a large force presence. We got that presence down to lower than it is now. This president is the one that's increased the number, not reduced the number.
This is Gary Hartman, the president of a company that makes the steel frames used to transport shipping containers. He's a Republican who voted for President Trump in 2016. Gary, welcome.
Hey,
Thank
Gary.
you. Vice President Biden, Chief Chassis is located in Berwick, Pennsylvania, where we produce intermodal container chassis. We're a
But
small
fucking
family-owned
Biden,
business.
yeah,
that is
Biden
facing
voted
unfair
fucking
trade container chassis imports from.
in the Senate that
we'll
gave
call
President George
massive
W. Bush the
state-owned
authority to
entity
launch the
in
fucking
China.
war. He voted in
The
favor of it.
products are currently under Section 301, but the Chinese have found a way to undermine the relief of the tariff. So, as president, how would you address China's unfair trade policies?
I would make it clear, just what we did in our administration, that when they use state-owned enterprises, which is what they're doing, state-owned enterprises to undercut the price that they can charge to be able to come and compete with American manufacturing, that they in fact would be denied that opportunity. I would also make it
never
clear
have to interact with
that
me again. You can
when
say
you,
yes
in
or
fact, it's got to be, if any of that is being purchased by any government agency, that we will not purchase anything that is not made in America, including the downriver line of what has to be done, all the parts. You can't do what he's doing now. You can't do where he's given a tax break to companies that, in fact, go overseas.
Hey, that's my Uncle Joe.
And then import the product back into the United States of America, even though the headquarters is here. The chain, though, you go overseas and they bring it back in cheaper than you being able to produce it. And so I'm going to make sure that it's made in America. I believe, and I mean that. We've been talking about this policy for 100 years. We've never fully done it. We can and must do it now.
This is Julie Moser-Bali from Sacramento, Pennsylvania. She's CFO for her family potato farm, a member of the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau. She's also a Republican who voted for President Trump in 2016. Julie, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you feeling now, Julie?
Good evening. Overregulation
How you
puts
feeling now?
an extreme burden on small and family-owned farms and is a contributing factor to many farms going out of business. Policies during the Obama administration, such as the rules under the Waters of the U.S. Act, threaten to increase that regulation, as does policies proposed through the Green New Deal, which your climate plan embraces.
No, it doesn't embrace whole new.
Excuse me, if I could finish.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I apologize.
How do you plan to decrease the regulatory burden for farmers and businesses as a whole?
Two ways. Number one, we should provide for your ability to make a lot more money as farmers by dealing with you being able to put land in land banks, and you get paid to do that, to provide for more open space and provide for the ability of you to be able to be in a position that we are going to pay you for planting certain crops.
So
that in fact
is that even
absorb
in?
carbon
Was that
from the
actually
air.
in the Green New
That's
Deal?
part of what the plan relates to in terms of agriculture and the environment.
Read it again.
But as it relates to, if you're talking about regulation that relates to fertilizer and water tables, that's a different thing. In the United States, in my state of Delaware, we have a $4 billion industry.
PDF right here.
Chicken and poultry, and all the manure, quite frankly, that is a consequence of chickens. And so it's polluting the Chesapeake Bay. What we found out, we've invested a lot of money. We found out you can pelletize this and take out the methane, so you're in a position where you can use that fertilizer without the damage that was being done before. The same way with horse manure and cow manure and pig manure. And we can create thousands of jobs in rural America as a consequence of setting up these small industries within communities. And so that's the way you'll be able to continue to farm without worrying about whether or not you're polluting, and being in a position where you're able to make money by what you do in the transition as well as be able to grow more.
Mr. Vice President, this is Susan Connors, who runs a local HVAC business. She's a Democrat. Susan, welcome.
Thank you, Anderson. Mr. Vice President,
If anybody wants to
I look out over my Biden sign in my front yard, and I see a sea of
post the
Trump
link in the
flags and yard signs.
Discord, not Discord,
And
the
my
Twitch,
question is, what is your plan to build a bridge with voters from the opposing party to lead us forward towards a common future?
Well, you've got it exactly right. I said when I announced the next president of the United States is going to inherit two things: a divided nation and a world in disarray. And remember how I was so roundly criticized during the primaries, saying I plan to unite the nation. I'm running as a Democrat, but I'm going to be everyone's president. I'm not going to be a Democratic president. I'm going to be America's president. And I've made my whole career based upon bringing people together.
See, that's what
and
Trump
bringing the
should have
parties
said
together.
when he
I've been
was running
relatively
as a
good at doing that.
Republican.
I learned a long time ago, and I apologize, Anderson heard me say this. When I first got to the Senate, I was 29 years old when I got elected. Turns out, when I was hiring staff, my wife and daughter and 3 children were Christmas shopping, tractor trailer brought some and killed my wife and daughter, and my 2 boys were badly injured. And they weren't sure they were going to make it. I didn't want to go to the Senate. A group of senators came to me and said, including 2 Republicans, just come and stay for 6 months, help us organize. I was so foolish. We had 58 Democratic senators and a Democratic governor-elect. He would have appointed a Democrat. But I'm the first senator I ever really knew. I went and I agreed to do it. End result was I'd have to meet with the majority leader of the Senate, a guy named Mike Mansfield, had more integrity in his little finger than most people had in their whole body. And I'd meet with him, and it took me about 5 weeks to figure out. He'd give me an assignment. I'd go in Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and I'd get an assignment. No senators get assignments.
I'm not getting. I see you guys are following me. I'm not getting any of these notifications.
Just taking my pulse.
That, well, my stream's lagging at the same time, so I might. I don't know.
Third week in May, after realizing what this was all about,
guys.
I walked in the Senate floor. If you ever
There
watch
they are.
C-SPAN, you see those, that gold letter, that gold leaf on the doors. Walk through those doors down to the well of the Senate. The senator was ripping into 2 people who are very good friends of mine. Bob Dole is still a good friend and very ill, and Teddy Kennedy, who's passed away. And they introduced the precursor for the Americans with Disabilities Act. And this senator was ripping them a new ear, saying it's confiscatory. No one has a right to confiscate my property. Tell me I have to curb cut. It's wrong. And I thought, what an awful thing. But I was more afraid of being late for my meeting with the president, with the leader, than I was to take him on. I walked in and sat down in front of this gentleman named Mike Mansfield. He always had a pipe in his hand, mostly never lighted. He looked at me and said, "What's the matter, Joe?" And I went on for 3 minutes about how this senator had no social redeeming value. How could he not care about people with disabilities? He looked at me and he said, "Joe, what would you say if I told you he and his wife sitting in their living room in 19, he was elected in 72, sitting in the living room in 71, reading their local paper, and there was a young man's picture in the paper with steel braces from under his arms down to his ankles and 2 crutches, and looking out in an advertisement in the paper saying, 'All I want for Christmas is someone to love me and take me home.'" He said, "What would you say if I told you they adopted that young man?" I said, "I'd be embarrassed." He said, "Well, they did, Joe." And then he taught me the most important lesson I learned in public life. He said, "Joe, it's always appropriate to question another man's or woman's judgment. It's never appropriate to question their motive because you don't know. And once you question motive, you can never get to an agreement. By the way, you're in the pocket of the cement industry. Let's talk about making more highways. You can't get it done. So I've never done that. And I've been able to get an awful lot done because I've never questioned motive. I don't rip the cord. I'm going to be America's president, not a Democratic president. I'm a Democrat, proud of it.
I'm
America's
a
president.
Do you think it's still possible to reach across the aisle?
Yes,
the
I
lines
do.
are so
In case
divided.
you haven't seen, a group of Republicans has said they're prepared to work with Joe Biden if he's elected. Happen to see that? It was recently published.
A group of Democrats?
On the Hill.
You think you
Why
can?
wouldn't
I'm confident I can.
Did he
I'm
mean to say
confident
Republicans?
That with President Trump out of the way and his vitriolic attitude and his way of just getting after people, revenge, With that gone, there's going to be an awful lot of Republicans who should have spoken up already. But in fact, I think there's going to be somewhere between 6 and 8 Republicans who are ready to get things done from dealing with cancer, from dealing with health care, from dealing with COVID, from dealing with the infrastructure. And I think we're going to win back the Democratic
He did say
Senate.
Republicans? Okay.
Mr. Vice President, thank you very much for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Who's been here. We've also invited President Trump for a CNN town hall. We look forward to having the president join us before Election Day, perhaps.
Thank you.
We also want to thank our driving
Like
audience for
Biden
being
a
here.
little
for their
bit more
questions,
when he
and thank you
speaks
to
because he
PNC
actually
Field
says
for
quite a
hosting
bit
us. Stay
more.
tuned
Just-
for Cuomo
Trump
Prime
speaks
Time
too
coming up
fucking slow.
next.
Can I see my family that's out there?
Can I see my family after this? Is that what he said?
All right, thank you, Anderson. I am Chris Cuomo. Welcome to Primetime.
Cuomo.
Joe Biden calling for President Trump to step down because of what he calls his failure to get this country together and moving forward in a time of crisis, suggesting the failure is something Trump knew
I don't want to hear
he was
fucking
doing.
Cuomo say this.
In his first primetime town hall.
Come back to you later. I want to finish what Trump he had to say.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
And it's especially harmful to children of minority backgrounds who should be uplifted, not disparaged.
That's it. Yeah, he spoke a lot more without. And he was looking everywhere, so it was like, all right, he's not just looking at one screen just saying shit.
Of those words. For many years now, the radicals have mistaken Americans' silence for weakness, but they're wrong. There is no more powerful force than a parent's love for their children, and patriotic moms and dads are going to demand that their children are no longer fed hateful lies about this country. American parents are not going to accept
As he spreads
indoctrination
hateful
in our
lies
schools,
about the country.
cancel culture in our work, or the repression of traditional faith, culture, and values in the public square. Not anymore.
That's why I said that. Which was this? Where was he at? Oh, the history conference.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We embrace the vision of Martin Luther King, where children are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The left is attempting to destroy that beautiful vision and divide Americans by race in the service of political power. By viewing every issue through the lens of race, they want to impose a new segregation, and we must not allow that to happen. Critical race theory, the 1619 Project, and the crusade against American history is toxic propaganda, ideological poison that, if not removed, will dissolve the civic bonds that tie us together, will destroy our country. That is why I recently banned trainings in this prejudiced ideology from the federal government and banned it in the strongest manner possible. The only path to national unity is through our shared identity as Americans. That is why it is so urgent that we finally restore patriotic education to our schools. Under our leadership, the National Endowment for the Humanities has awarded a grant to support the development of a pro-American curriculum that celebrates the truth about our nation's great history. We are joined by some of the respected scholars involved in this project, including Professor Wilford McClay. Wilford, please. Thank you very much, Wilford. Thank you. Dr. Peter Wood of the National Association of Scholars. Dr. Peter. Thank you. Thank you. And Ted Rebarber. Thank you, Ted. Thank you very much, Ted. Today, I'm also pleased to announce that I will soon sign an executive order establishing a national commission to promote patriotic education. It will be called the 1776 Commission.
Patriotic education. Why don't you help fund more education instead of this shit? No, I'm gonna defund everything else, but fucking, we're gonna need some more patriotic education.
Thank you.
What?
It will encourage our educators to teach our children about the miracle of American history and make plans to honor the 250th anniversary of our founding. Think of that, 250 years. Recently, I also signed an executive order to establish the National Garden of American Heroes, a vast outdoor park that will feature the statues of the greatest Americans who have ever lived. Today, I'm announcing a new name for inclusion. One of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence was a patriot from Delaware. In July of 1776, the Continental Congress was deadlocked during the debate over independence. The delegation from Delaware was divided. Caesar Rodney was called upon to break the tie. Even though he was suffering from very advanced cancer, he was deathly ill. Rodney rode 80 miles through the night, through a severe thunderstorm, from Dover to Philadelphia to cast his vote for independence. For nearly a century,
The real Dirty
a statue
Dans appreciate the
of
follow,
one of
brother.
Delaware's most beloved citizens stood in Rodney Square, right in the heart of Wilmington. But this past June, Caesar Rodney's statue was ordered removed by the mayor and local politicians as part of a radical purge of America's founding generation. Today, because of an order I signed,
Grab some more juice.
if you demolish a statue without permission, you immediately get 10 years in prison.
Oh, fuck off. It's a fucking statue. God, put those bitches in fucking museums if you're so worried about them. I don't want any fucking statues around here.
For the last 4 months, incredibly, since the time I signed that act. Joe Biden said nothing as to his home state's history and the fact that it was dismantled and dismembered and a founding father statue was removed. Today, America will give this founding father, this very brave man who was so horribly treated, the place of honor he deserves. I'm announcing that the statue of Caesar Rodney will be added to the National Garden of American Heroes.
Oh, my fucking armchair just broke. Now you're gonna see
From
how
Washington
ghetto this
to
setup
Lincoln,
is.
From Jefferson to King, America has been home to some of the most incredible people who have ever lived. With the help of everyone here today, the legacy of 1776 will never be erased. Our heroes will never be forgotten. Our youth will
We
be
should
taught to
forget
love
about
America
all of them,
with all of their
considering none
heart
of them are
and
really
all of
around
their soul.
anymore. Not forget about them, but put this
We
shit in
will
a fucking
save this
museum. We got.
cherished
It's not the same
inheritance for our
times, not the
children,
same.
for their
Oh
children,
God, it's
and
ridiculous.
for every
I don't.
generation
That being
to
said, I
come.
don't think we should be going off fucking laws people put in fucking
This
place
is a very important day.
100 years ago, fucking less
Thank
than
you
100 years
all
ago.
once again for being here. Now I will sign the Constitution Day proclamation. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trump. Appreciate you. Alright. Is there anything else in there? What you got? Let's see. So I don't have a dual screen monitor set up yet, so I'm running half my other shit off of a MacBook. Yo, that whoa! That thing's fucking sweet. That I will fucking, hold on, let's see. Pause, pause, pause. Y'all gotta see this. I'm not even on my fucking... Of course, I'm stupid. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. This thing's badass. How did you... Damn. 279 fucking dollars. I want like 10 of them. Sir Lancelot and the Gothic Dragon statue. That's pretty sweet. These are awesome. I like the fucking table too. That thing is fucking sweet. $179. How big is that thing? What can it hold? I need some items on there. Items I don't fucking have. 19 inches. Okay. Ah, see, I was like, man, I thought this table was a lot bigger. It was like $179. Damn. That's pretty sweet too. Now you're gonna make me go down a fucking wormhole or a rabbit hole of this shit. This is awesome. I like this. I'm gonna save this page. Oh, these are all cool as hell. Oh man. Yeah, we need more of these around town. Oh God, are they still fucking
about you know, all kinds of ancillary things, but the central issue for many Americans remains the economy, their economic future, and their economic stability. And I did feel like Biden was able to turn a lot of these questions back around to that core issue repeatedly.
There is
in a way
one at
that I
that gas
thought was
station,
pretty
you're right.
effective.
That thing's
The second
old
thing
though,
that I
and it's
thought was
mounted down
effective,
like a motherfucker.
and will become more important is
me and a few
when
friends a long
he's
time
asked
ago
about how do you
where,
work
like,
with
I
people
think it was like
across
8
the
years
aisle.
ago.
He had
They're
an
like,
answer
man,
for
we're
that.
gonna
He
go
said,
see if
you
we
know,
can buy
I
that thing.
don't judge
And then they were
people's,
closed, and they were like, how
motives.
light is
He
it?
basically
And
said,
one of
I
my
don't
buddies tried to
burn
pick it up,
bridges with people.
and
I've
it
been
was
able to
not
do a
going
lot
anywhere unless you wanted to
deals
commit
over the
massive
years
amounts
of
of
my career
vandalism,
by being able to
which
work
we
with
were
people
not
across
trying
the
to
aisle.
do.
I think the American people are going to be looking for what is the alternative? If Trump is one thing, what is the antithesis to that thing? And I think Biden began to articulate that case for himself tonight with some of these questions.
Axe, final word from you with a little bit of shading on
Account
Does Biden get
created
hindered in that
9
effort by
minutes
being
ago.
part of the Obama-Biden administration when you had such a culture of
Really? Is
opposition
that you,
coming
Miguel?
from the right? So it was very difficult to get things done, but that is something he'll have to defend.
I could ban you. I don't want to do
Yeah,
that.
look,
Stop it.
I mean, you can't have it both ways. He very much is running on that record
I
and
wanna
that
not
legacy. But in Washington at the
see
time
this.
that he was serving, he was known among legislators as someone who they could talk to. He did have a relationship with McConnell and others. Whether or not the politics will allow them to cooperate with him if he gets elected is another question. But he spent 36 years in the United States Senate.
Boy, no.
He understands the art of
How am I
dealing
supposed to
with
know?
fellow legislators and understanding what their needs are and what their
It is you
perspective is. I think that could be very helpful to him if in these very polarized
Yeah, we wanted to
times,
take it, but
they
we weren't
feel they have
going
the
to.
room to maneuver.
You know, I don't do a lot of panels on prime time, but I like you three. This was very helpful. I honestly can say I couldn't anticipate any of your answers. So thank you all. These are all big moments, man. As we get down now, you're getting fewer and fewer at-bats, so they matter more and more. David Axelrod, Abby Phillip, Miles Taylor, thank you for the perspective and the analysis on an important night. All right, so obviously all of this is happening under the cloud of what? The pandemic. 20,000 more of us could die from COVID in the next few weeks. And remember, you can politicize that number as much as you want. Oh, but they're mostly old people. They're mostly 55 plus. They're people. So for young people, for most people, it's all okay. Tell that to the families. That people, by the way, in that age
Yeah, that's
range
another thing
happen to
I've
be the
encountered
fathers
recently
and
is
the
a lot
mothers
of people
and the
don't
centers
really
of the
fucking
family
give a
and the
fuck about
matriarchs and the
COVID,
patriarchs
and then they're
and
like,
the people
oh shit,
you want around
my
as long
aunt
as
has
you can
it.
have them.
And they're like, oh
That's
fuck.
where we are.
Now they got to put her in
Director
induced
Robert
coma because the
Redfield of
medication that they put her
CDC
on
said,
makes her freak the fuck
"Wear
out."
your
And that's
mask.
exactly what happened with
The president
half of
never
our
says
ward
that to
that
you.
we
He
have
said
at the
it once.
hospital.
It's patriotic duty.
Like,
Never
majority of
said
them
it
could
again.
not.
And now when
Oh my
Redfield said
God,
it,
was
he's trying to shut
ridiculous.
him up again and shut out
Cuomo,
science.
you're so
Why?
annoying. I hate hearing you. Alright. I think I'm gonna play some video games or something now. I'm tired of watching these fools. I've been, what? It's been an hour and a half. Whoever's watching now, appreciate you guys sticking around for Biden and Trump's little shit shows. Let's see. Like I said, everybody that followed the past hour and a half or so, I do fucking videos like this all the time. Every time they go live, I'm going live, and I'm gonna wanna show everybody what these people gotta say. But I don't know, Miguel. Why don't you just hop into the Discord? Oh, you're already in the Discord. You want to stop saying we were trying to commit grand larceny on my live stream? That was 8 years ago. Shut up. Emmett from 8 years ago was a savage. Oh hell yeah! I gotta edit my. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end that stream that I got going on now, and I'm gonna boot up another one for gaming because I don't feel like keeping the same recording of all this. I'm gonna do an ending scene. Thanks for everybody tuned in. Like I said, I actually had quite a few people jump in, and that's fucking awesome. I like it when people come in and fucking interact on the stream. I hate watching shit and then people don't comment, don't fucking. Especially I like fucking people on both sides commenting. Republicans and Democrats. That shit is a lot better than, because when I streamed before, it's like I had a bunch of hardcore leftists commenting on my stuff, and it was not what I needed.